How to tell if somebody on YouTube is secretly crazy and dangerous to you. Now, there's a lot of people on YouTube these days. Some of them have become quite famous, and some of them can really be dangerous to you. You might have seen some books going around written by famous FBI profilers, and these books, they can tell you how to screen someone that you can meet, right? Could be a babysitter potential. It could be somebody you may want to hire for your business. Could be somebody you meet for a date, right? And there's all kinds of screening techniques you can do. How do you talk to these people? How to pose open questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Or how would you do this? Or how this? And what? And when and where, right? Lots of good screening techniques, but usually these screening techniques are done are geared towards personal contacts, right? And on YouTube, it's a different situation. These people that talk to you on YouTube, and talk to you quite a lot on YouTube, they're far away from you physically. They're far away from you. And the communication between you and the YouTube personality is asymmetrical. It's one side. That people on the screen can talk to you day and night, day and night, day and night for hours, but you cannot talk back to that person. You can do a comment, or maybe you can write an email, you can try to get this person on the phone, but the more popular that YouTube personality is, the less likely it will be to actually talk to that person directly. So how do you screen someone? How do you assess someone's personality? Can you get an estimation if somebody might be dangerous? If that someone is a YouTube personality. So I'm going to explain that to you in this video. And yes, it's a real danger, right? It's not just screening a potential babysitter that might be a good person or might shake your baby, right? It's not just about screening someone you go to a date with and who might be a secret serial killer, and you could end up in somebody's basement chained to a radiator. There's also a danger from YouTube personalities because they can convince you of all kinds of things. They can suck you into radical Islam or another radical group. They can get you to believe all kinds of baloney in terms of nutrition or medicine, stuff that can kill you, stuff that can make you seriously ill. YouTube personalities can twist your mind and isolate you from your friends and your family members. And people have committed suicide in the past because they have been isolated by some YouTube cult leaders. Okay, so yes, this is dangerous. So somebody you like on YouTube, somebody you watch on a regular basis on YouTube, could be a psychopath, could be a heavy narcissist. That person might have that person might rank on the psycho scale. They might get 30 points up to 40 points, the 40-point maximum. That person could have a value of 20 to 30 points, or even just 10 to 20 points. Even someone who scores below 10 points on the psychopath scale can be dangerous to you if that person is simply misguided, makes some really bad choices. And so there's some really good screening methods I will explain to you, and these methods, they will not tell you if that YouTube personality has exactly this personality disorder or exactly the other one or an exact mix of disorders. It will just tell you, the screening method will just tell you that person is probably dangerous, and there's so many warning signs. I will not watch that person. I will not support that person. And lesson number one, do not just trust your gut instincts. Do not just trust your simple feelings, because we have no inbuilt mechanism that is totally reliable. This is very important to understand. This is what the famous FBI profilers teach you. Now, obviously, if you get a very scary vibe from someone, of course, that's kind of an easy case. Some dangerous people, they seem creepy, and of course, then you can just stay away from these people. But a lot of psychopaths are very, very good at hiding their insanity, and they put on this mask of being normal, and they can manage perception. They can manage your perception. They can seem very, very nice and very intelligent and all that sort of stuff. So don't just go with your gut feeling and say, I like this person. This person seems cool. This person seems interesting. It's not good enough. It's not really good enough. So, usually, if you have a person in front of you, you would look for, when you talk to that person, you would look for signs of evading certain topics, the other person not answering certain questions, deflecting, using humor to distract, and all these kind of things. You would look for leakage. Like, does this person admit to certain things that are questionable? Is that person saying, well, you know, I used to do this and that, you know, bad thing, but not really, or I'm not doing this anymore. So you gotta look for leakage. And you also have to look for leakage in YouTube videos. And you have to look for, an egocentrical perspective. Is that person talking too much about himself or herself? Like, it's always I, me, me. That's, of course, something to look out for. Is that person always blaming somebody else for mistakes? Does this person seem reckless? Does this person do dumb, stupid things? Is the person too emotional? If that person talks about emotions or shows emotions, does it seem phony? Does it seem staged? Does it seem like a performance? Does it look like that person is just using certain words and pretending certain emotions? Are there signs for alcoholism, abuse of medications, drugs, so on and so forth? Are there any problems with the law that person has? Aggression. Does this person have issues with aggression? Issues that go beyond normal people being, you know, pissed at some point. Is this person manipulative in general when he explains something? Do you have the impression that person is draining? You know, is very you feel on edge when you watch that person? Is this person impulsive, and so on and so forth? So that's kind of the same thing. The same things you can apply when you're dealing with somebody directly or when you watch somebody on YouTube. And but if you don't have that person in front of you, you can talk to him directly. You can talk to that person's private circle. You can talk to that person's wife, that person's kids, that person's friends, and so on and so forth. And you have to apply some different screening techniques. Unless, of course, you get some statements from that person's family. Something that matters, something interesting. So, in the old days, you had a few television channels, and you had these famous people helping famous politicians, and you knew these people from the screen, and you thought you knew all about them, but usually these successful people were psychopaths and narcissists, some really nasty folks. And nowadays, of course, you have almost an infinite number of YouTube channels. Anybody with a $20 webcam can start his own channel. And so you have to be very, very careful in this new media world. Because somebody you like on YouTube can change your life. He can point you in a certain direction. He can convince you of certain things that might be harmful to you, that can isolate you and that can get you into trouble. I mean, you can learn on YouTube in 5 minutes how to order drugs on the internet. You can... there's these radical Islamists, there's radical ultra-right-wing groups, right? They're led by fascists or narcissists or FBI informants. So there's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of dangerous people out there. There's people on YouTube that teach you to hate women. You know? People that appeal to your darker sides. People that want to bring out your anger and your simplistic thinking. And usually people had these simple rules. They thought the more famous somebody is, the more contacts he has, the more likely it has to be that this person is sane and this person is decent, because it would have been known, you know, if this person was crazy. It would have come out, but it's the opposite. The more insane somebody is, the more crazy somebody is, the more protection somebody usually has, because that's how the establishment is built. That's how human groups degenerate, right? These psychopaths and narcissists, they get to the top and they change the whole group and they create their whole system. And on YouTube now, in the YouTube era, it's kind of the same thing. So you have people with 1 million followers or 2 million or 5 million followers. And so people tend to believe these people are institutions. They're famous, they're big, they're huge. They have so much audience, they have to be sane. But that's the wrong kind of thinking. They might be actually insane. They might be psychopaths. They might be heavy narcissists. And you have to understand these mental illnesses and try to look for warning signs. So, people are being recruited every day on YouTube into cults or political cult movements. But you can also learn a lot of good stuff on YouTube, and there's a lot of good people on YouTube too, of course. And you have to be able to distinguish which is which, you know, who is a good guy and who's not. Now, of course, the professionals, if people have been at this for a couple of years, they get better and better at managing their reputation. So they silently attack their critics with lawyers, and they try to pull all kinds of maneuvers, and they have perfected their delivery in front of a camera. So everything they put out is polished, is pre-written, is carefully edited. And so everything you see of these people has been prepared. It's not reality. It's just something that was specifically made for the audience. That's what you have to remember. So even if you've seen a person on YouTube for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, year after year after year after year, you still haven't seen the real person. This person might feel familiar to you. This person might feel like he's your friend, but he could be very, very dangerous. So, if you have somebody in your YouTube subscription list, you know, if you have someone who's guiding you towards certain decisions, right? You have to review every one you watch. You have to check your subscription list and screen those people that are really influencing you, that are really changing your decisions, influencing your life. So, here's some screening techniques you need to apply. If somebody is prominent, and if this person is putting out or has put out a lot of material, then the probability is much higher that you're going to find some disturbing videos of that person or from that person. So some of these people out there, they have been publishing endless amounts of stuff. And at some point in their studios, they get careless. You know, they get carried away, or they've had a beer or 2 beers, or they're feeling particularly lightheaded or particularly angry at something. And then there's leakage, right? Or they feel exhilarated. They've enjoyed some success, and they start to become careless. You know, nobody can mess with them, and they can, you know, do whatever they want. So look out for that. If it's important to you, if this is somebody on YouTube that is influencing your decisions, go look for stuff that is disturbing. And find those disturbing videos and try to find out what led to the creation of this video. Has that person tried to get rid of that video? Because that happens a lot. They put out some stuff and they regret it and they want to scrub it from the internet, which of course doesn't really work. And so, yeah, find those videos that are shocking, that are disgusting, that are revealing, and see what you can make of it. You know, see what this actually means. Did that person just have a bad day, or do you have to look past excuses? And do you see the real person coming through in that shocking video? So the more somebody puts out there, the more careless this person gets, the more likely you'll find something really, really weird and scary. Yeah, like for example, Alex Jones, famous guy, used to be an influence for me many years ago. He was revealed to be an actual narcissist. You know, in this court case, the public court case against his ex-wife, the court case concerning the children, there it was in the media reports. In court, it was said, according to his media reports, Alex Jones was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder by his own therapists. And that is really, really scary. I mean, I've seen this guy for years and years and years, and he's managed the perception that people have of him. And over the years, his screaming rants have become more weird. It looked more and more phony, and in court, his lawyers said he's doing a lot of performance art, it's a lot of acting, and it's become very worrying, his choices, his decisions, the way he's been dealing with his ex-wife and his ex-employees. A lot of worrying stuff came out, and now we have a diagnosis, or we have reports of a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, and that is a very, very serious mental illness. Next, screening tip. If we're talking about video footage, all these impressions, all that is being said in the videos and the nonverbal communication is recorded forever. So it's not like if you're talking to a person one-to-one where, you know, things are being exchanged and impressions can be, you know, fleeting. When you're watching a video, you can pause it, you can rewind it to an earlier point, you can rewatch stuff, you can fact check that person, and you can look for manipulations or illegitimate techniques that this person is using in a debate or when he explains something. And that's something you can use, right? That's something you can use. If that person puts out a lot of video, you can just check and double check and do that kind of a screening. You know, manipulative people, they usually try to be super fast, and they dodge stuff, and they switch topic, you know, mid-sentence, and they do all kinds of stuff. But when they're doing this in front of a camera, it's recorded, it's evidence, and you can double and triple check it. Next tip. Look for critical stuff about that YouTube personality. Critical videos, critical comments, blog posts, newspaper articles, and try to be as objective as you can. Is that legitimate criticism? Is it partially legitimate? Is it not legitimate? So of course, let's take that Alex Jones example because it's so obvious. A lot of dirty mainstream media is attacking him, but a lot of that criticism actually sticks because some of that stuff is just really obvious. And so you can't just dismiss criticism outright just because it comes from mainstream media, because the mainstream media does not 100% lie all of the time. You know, if things were that easy, nobody would need any skills anymore as an analyst. You know, you can just say whatever the alternative media says is true and whatever the mainstream says is wrong, but unfortunately the world is not that simple. So yeah, you can find a lot of stuff about Julian Assange or Alex Jones or whatever, and if you do some really good digging, you can find some really scary stuff, admitted scary stuff, proven scary stuff, and then you have to look for excuses and you know, lame cop-outs and check out if this accusation actually sticks and how many of those accusations there are. And you have to look out for the way that person is dealing with criticism. Next, get some good literature. Fact check stuff and use logic. Get some actual books. A lot of people that are famous on YouTube, a lot of people that have a lot of followers, they don't read books, so they don't read a lot of books. I mean, Alex Jones just admitted he barely has read any book in the last 10 years. So a lot of these people, they just bluff and they refer to their incredible secret sources, but usually they don't really know what they're talking about. And if you can fact check them, keep a certain distance, that always helps. So can you catch these YouTube people lying? Can you catch them revealing their incompetence? Next tip, is this person, this YouTube personality, does this person make all kinds of excuses using conspiracy theories? So is every bad thing that happened to them, is every criticism leveled against them supposedly some huge conspiracy? Especially in alternative media, of course, everybody says I'm being persecuted and whatever. But is that really true? And is it really true in all these different cases, right? There's a lot of psychopaths and narcissists in alternative media, and you have to be able to spot them, right? And every psychopath and every narcissist out there in alternative media, or in general on YouTube, they will always make excuses saying, this is just a conspiracy against me, you know, this is just the evil empire trying to get me. Then you have to check for that YouTube personality's money. How does he make money? Is it legitimate? Is it not legitimate? How much money is this person making? Is that person just riding certain trends and fads? Is this person just doing a personality contest or a popularity contest? Next, does this YouTube personality shamelessly exaggerate their own importance? So that's a very easy thing to screen for. Like, for example, you have certain ideologists out there on YouTube that are quite popular, and they just took some old stuff, you know, some really old stuff, like some old libertarian stuff that's been around forever, and they just warmed that up and then claim to be philosopher kings. They claim to be incredible geniuses with global meaning, and you know, they just go way beyond an accurate assessment of themselves, or they exaggerate their true audience size, like claiming 20 million people and 400 million or whatever, these insane numbers, when in reality they're just, you know, playing in the mid-level of the media world. And of course, in alternative medicine, you get a lot of these cranks who give some really bad advice, terrible, dangerous advice, and then they, of course, say they are sent by God, and you also, um, and you also had, yeah, and you also have like people like Alex Jones saying again and again and again that he was chosen by God to do this, or providence. He's all about providence and this sort of stuff. So they're sneaking that in there. They're sneaking that stuff in there, and that's something to look out for. You know, a large self-esteem is not the same thing as narcissism. If a person is really good at what he does, and if that person is proud, that's still okay. That's not a warning sign. Okay, you have to look for a wide gap between reality and the image that person is conveying. Of course, if it's media, you have to expect a certain, level of exaggeration, right? People pretend to be larger than life, or not larger than life. People pretend to be larger than they are, but if people pretend to be larger than life, then that's a warning sign. Next, does that person actually practice what this person is preaching, or is the personal life and private life way different to the media personality? Next, does this YouTube personality claim to be in cahoots with some really powerful people or powerful circles? This is mostly a bluff. So, a lot of times, connections are exaggerated, or people just make a photo or a selfie with somebody important and then claim whatever, connection they have, or they exaggerate the meaning of their sources, or they make up sources. They just claim something and say, this came from the best possible source you can ever dream of. And sometimes it's actually true if a YouTube personality claims to be in cahoots with somebody powerful. But if that powerful personality or that powerful group is dangerous, then of course that's a bad sign. So I've seen, personally, I've worked with a couple of, sort of famous people in the alternative media scene. And I had this one person from the alternative health, circles. And that person used to tell their supporters that they're just an inch away of getting all that money from some powerful people and some powerful billionaire, and it was really just hot air, just stringing people along, just stringing the supporters along to do free work and to just believe in that cause, believing there's going to be this windfall of money. And nowadays in alternative news, you have these people claiming basically they're in cahoots with the Russians, and they're sort of, on the Russian team or on the Trump-Russia team, with all their power and their nukes and all that. But in reality, they're nothing. They're nobody, and they're not going to be rewarded by the Russians, and they're not going to, liberate America. And being in bed with the Russians is actually a bad thing, because they know how to play people. This is an evil empire, and they know how to find those narcissists in the West and push them. Next screening tip: does this person make false promises or unrealistic promises? So, is that person saying what you want to hear? Is that person always saying what you want to hear? This is something to look out for. So, don't be fooled if some person says, goes back and forth between narcissistic self-praise and self-deprecation, just, oh, I'm chosen by God, I'm so great, but hey, I'm not gonna tooting my horn, I'm just a humble servant of the people and God, and I'm not important, it's not about me, but I'm chosen by God, and I'm the greatest thing there is, but no, I don't want to toot my horn here. Just this going back and forth in an insane way. That's something to look out for. And implicit false, unrealistic promises, like, follow me and follow Donald Trump, and this is gonna save America, and you know, support the Russians, and that's gonna save the world, and we're gonna bring America back. That's an unrealistic promise. It's not as simple as just waiting for some populist, you know, to get into office. And waiting till the Russians, you know, this evil empire makes a change of their facade and now claim to be Christian conservative. You know, that's a false promise. This is how it is. And of course, people don't want to hear it. Oh no, I don't want to hear any bad news. I don't want to hear it. People love false hope. You know, people love baloney, even if it's bad for them. You know, the truth will get you an accurate view on reality, will get you accurate ways of actually fighting elites. And so be aware of false promises. Another thing to look out for, does the YouTube personality encourage you to drop family members and friends if they're not on board with your ideology? Is that person encouraging you to do things and say things that really harm your reputation? So you have to look out for it. You have to be able to differentiate between legitimate things like that and not legitimate things. So if you have a true narcissist or a true psychopath or somebody who's really, really destructive in your family, and if you have false friends, by all means, cut them off. Get rid of them. You know, it will improve your life. But you have to be able to screen that properly and to tell who is whom. And so if and of course, if you become more knowledgeable, and if you want to really do something productive, and you have some lame friends who just want to have fun and do nothing else, and have no bigger issues in their mind, of course you may not want to spend as much time with them. Or if you have destructive friends, they're not per se bad, but they make a lot of bad choices, and they encourage you to make bad choices. Of course, just make, you got to be more selective. You may want to spend less time with, Jack the party guy, and more, spend more time with John, the hardworking person with a purpose, right? But a lot of these YouTube personalities, they're just gurus, right? They're usually narcissists. A lot of them are psychopaths. And at some point in their lives, they have, bought a book or read a book like The 48 Laws of Power. This is just a manual for being an ass, for being an exploiting cult leader and manipulative, person. So they've read these books, and they apply these techniques from these books, and they want to pull you into some cult, and they want to isolate you from friends and family, so you have nothing left but the cult. And of course, all these usual cult techniques apply. They entice you with stuff that's reasonable, and they lure you in. And the more you get into the inner circles of the cult, the more radical it becomes, and the more psychopathic and narcissistic these thoughts and convictions become. And then, of course, it's this universal cult thought, us versus them. Anybody who's not one of us doesn't understand us. Anybody else is just an outsider, unenlightened one, part of the problem, a bad person. I mean, I've seen radical libertarians, doing this kind of thing, where they, like Stefan Molyneux, where he's just he has this thing about, if your parents are bad, almost all your parents are bad, and you need to just ghost them, and nobody who is not a radical libertarian can ever be your friend, and all that sort of nonsense. And this stuff can be very, very dangerous. So that's something you have to look out for. And then, of course, media personalities on YouTube, they don't just talk directly into the microphone, to the camera. They also talk to other people. Could be callers via phone, could be guests, could be people that are critical. And of course, that's when you have to really look out for manipulations and dirty techniques. You have to look out for gaslighting, you know, the YouTube personality claiming something something didn't happen or I didn't do that, and being illogical. For example, when Alex Jones was interviewed by Megyn Kelly, they quoted him saying, "I looked at Sandy Hook for a year, and I've looked at this from all angles, and it's definitely everything's definitely fake." And Alex was confronted with that, and then he flip-flopped and said, "I was just playing devil's advocate," and just being illogical, you know. And then you had some word salad, some gobbledygook. That's something you have to look out for. Nonsensical arguments or tricks to appear more dominant. Circular arguments. That's something you have to look out for. That's manipulative. Sometimes people are not aware when they're doing this. I mean, I've seen this with radical libertarians who say, do not get involved in the politics, you know, just because politics is evil, because that means government, and government is the devil, so stay out of politics. And when you debate with these people, they just switch between three categories of thoughts. There are simple dogmas. They're too simple to apply to reality. You know, it's like the non-aggression principle. It sounds really nice, but doesn't really help us in the real world. I mean, we're surrounded by tyrannical governments led by psychopaths and narcissists. How are you going to fight them? You know, they've been aggressive to us the whole time. So, why shouldn't decent people that are not psychopaths, that are not narcissists, why shouldn't they gain political actual power? Right? So you talk to them and you say, well, these simple dogmas, they sound nice. I'd love to live in a world where nobody's forced to do anything, but unfortunately that's not realistic. And we can't fight the evil on the world using these simple dogmas. That just turns us into useless monks. And radical libertarians, they will just reply that you're bad, you're evil, because you're not on their level of morality, because you have lower moral standards, and they're the only ones who have pure moral standards. When you debunk their simple dogmas, they will just switch over to their ideal society, their fantasy model of a perfect stateless society. But that's just a fantasy. That's not a real argument, right? Those are not real arguments. And if you tell them that, you know, this is not real arguments and your dogmas don't really work, and you ask them, what are your concrete ideas to get towards that perfect society? What are your tools to fight these governments and this evil? And then they shift around and they say, well, you know, we want to indoctrinate our kids, and we want to do a lot of podcasts. And of course, those are weak methods. And if you tell them those are weak tools, then they will switch back to their dogmas and say, but the non-aggression principle, you can't touch the non-aggression principle, because if you deny that, then you're evil. And some of them claim it might take us 1,000 years to achieve our goals, but we will not be politically active. And it's just, you know, that's something you have to look out for. I mean, communists do the same things. They use simple dogmas, they use their fantasy society, and they're using, you know, they have some serious techniques to get there. And Islamists, they use the same tricks in debates. So look for that stuff. It's not legitimate. Look for projection, the YouTube personality accusing others of what that YouTube personality is doing himself, strawman techniques, switching topics, threats, and signs of undue aggression. If somebody's influencing you, if somebody's influencing your decisions, influencing your life, apply these screening techniques, right? Apply these techniques for somebody you actually meet in person, and apply these techniques to people on YouTube. Apply these techniques to me. You're watching me on YouTube right now. So, you know, just be very careful out there. So if you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like us, and support us on Patreon.